Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. And a preview of the weekend's action. We've got three different cards, different heavyweights on each. Joyce and Hrgovic, the main event on Frank Warren's Queensberry card, which is its first foray into broadcasting on DAZN. Also, we'll cover Richard Torrez, Guido Vianello briefly, and Bakhodir Jalolov, the Olympic champion twice over. He returns to the ring. He will be facing Ihor Shevadzutskiy. And as you can see here, Joyce and Hrgovic weighed in, all ready to go. Joyce, 275 pounds, Hrgovic, 250. And actually for Joyce, I thought this is the best that I've seen him for some time, because until recently, I mean, after that first loss to Zhang, he did pack on some extra pounds, and it's like he never quite shed it. I still think maybe 275 is a touch too high, but it's certainly better than some recent weights, and I think hopefully that will help lead to a better performance, because a heavier Joyce also means a slower Joyce, and he can ill afford that. This week, Filip Hrgovic has said that Joyce punches as slow as fog, and he's not wrong. And previously, a part of Joyce's strategy, his shtick as it were, was to come forward, eat shots, and then just try to overwhelm you with volume. That still is largely his strategy, but at a higher weight, he's not as effective. And now that he's been stopped by Zhang, he was dropped late by Chisora, certainly his the juggernaut doesn't seem to be what he is anymore. The chin appears to be cracked, and at 38, 39 years old, he certainly feels now on the very tail end of his career and on the back of his prime. Doesn't mean that he can't be in some good fights, and obviously this fight here for him and both Hrgovic is one of these not quite loser leaves town. But if Joyce, after losing to Derek Chisora unexpectedly, if he drops this one and he looks bad in the loss, then obviously people will say perhaps he should pack it in. I think there would still be some fights out there for him, and Joyce in Fight Week had stated that he didn't think that there was any talk of retirement should be mentioned right now. He feels that he has still got a lot to offer to the heavyweight division. But I did think in some interviews and different statements he's made that he sounded a little bit punchy. So I do think his style, and there's a lot of guys in the past, you can probably think of a few, that style of leading with your face only works for so long. It has a shelf life, and I think Joyce is starting to find that out. Hopefully he's not taking too much punishment that affects him adversely later in life. Hrgovic, meanwhile, 250. I mean, for him, he just needs to go in there, look good, do a number on Joyce, or even just a win is a win. But both these guys are on the outside looking in, and they want to get back to the big show. They want to get to some of these Riyadh season cards, get to what would be considered world-level fights. A couple of years ago, this would have been considered an elite fight, but both these guys have taken some losses, and Joyce in particular has fallen considerably since the peak of his career, where he stopped Joseph Parker in 2022, was looking indestructible at that point, and subsequently, obviously, a few losses have piled up. Hrgovic, he lost to Daniel Dubois, and cuts were a factor there. It was a very dirty fight. But Hrgovic as well, and I think some of his fans sometimes neglect this, do not consider it. He hasn't always quite looked right. Sometimes he would just, go and take a walk in fights. He would look off. He wouldn't look quite dialed in. It's felt in recent years like he's going through the motions, that he's not necessarily in it for the sport. He's probably could be seen as one of these fighters that is really good as a fighter. It's his payday, but does he really love it? Because in some fights, it's just appeared that he didn't want to be there. So we'll have to see, has he managed to recapture some hunger and motivation? Because if he loses this one, doesn't look that great, I think people will say, well, where does he go from here? He is with Frank Warren now, as is Joe Joyce. Frank Warren's heavyweight stable is ridiculous. Joyce, like I say, 275, cutting a good figure here. Him and Hrgovic, similar height, similar reach. I expect Joyce to continue trying to do what he likes to do. Hrgovic, I think if he was thinking about how he can have success, if he could revert to using the jab, keeping it long to some extent, boxing and moving, and using the skills that he does have, he's going to have a speed advantage in there. His footwork used to be pretty decent, but he's fallen into the trap of recent years of trying to be this puncher, and everything else seems to have gone out the window. He is training with a new trainer now, so we'll have to see. He was with Pedro Diaz and also Ronnie Shields more recently, but he has now moved to Abel Sanchez. But my concern with Sanchez, he trains guys that like to come forward and be power punchers and knock guys out. Sure, that's going to lead to some fun and probably action here, but does that also play into Joyce's style? I don't know. We'll have to see. This is why we have the fights as well. Joyce, 275, like I say, 250 for Hrgovic. Also on the card, you've got David Adeleye, 239 pounds. Jeamie Tshikeva, or TKV, as he goes by, 254 pounds. And I think that's too heavy for Jeamie Tshikeva. One of these guys who's not a huge heavyweight in terms of height. 254, perhaps a little too heavy there. This week, also trying to do a Poundland version of Derek Chisora throwing a table. And Tshikeva has kind of got a bit of form for this in terms of, trying to talk heated and fight weak. But the more that I see of Tshikeva, the less that I want to continue watching his fights, because he does tend to be in fights that are scrappy, a lot of clinching, hard to watch, and he doesn't deliver necessarily in the way that sometimes these pre-fight sort of antics, are carried out. It can be a hard one, and he's not a big puncher either. But I actually favour David Adeleye in this fight. He may not be. This is a very zesty pose by Adeleye here. I don't know what was going on or why they decided to post it. Tshikeva got his clothes straight back on after the weigh-in. 254, like I say, too heavy. Adeleye, 239 pounds. I think that's sort of perfect for him. He's been the guy in recent years that's clearly been improving. I mean, if we remember the Sokolowski fight where arguably he was beaten, but he's improved so much from there. And his left hook is money. He seems to be quicker. And I do think that he is going to get the stoppage here. I just sort of seen this meme on the side. If you know, maybe it's in a reference to the pose. Anyway, we'll go to a few quotes in a moment, but you also have the 2024 Olympian Delicious Orie. He will be having his first fight under Frank Warren. Says it's Frank Warren's new heavyweight prodigy. I'm not convinced prodigy is the right word. I think keep expectations in check. I think he's got good skills and he just needs to be brought along, and I think he'll be able to go a decent way in the heavyweight division. But I think certainly less hype and less raps on Orie compared to maybe some more recent fighters who Warren has signed on from the start as heavyweights. You can think of Daniel Dubois and more recently Moses Ditoma. Certainly not that sort of the raps on Orie, not quite the same, but still I think he is a decent heavyweight in terms of where was the weights, where was it? He is facing Milos Velicic, Delicious Orie, 245 pounds. He's 6'5", 6'6", so he's in a 4-rounder. Adeleye, so that's for the vacant British Heavyweight Championship against Jeamie Tshikeva. That was vacated recently by another Frank Warren fighter, Fabio Wardley. I don't actually think that Tshikeva has done anywhere near enough to fight for that title, and you could maybe sort of say Adelaye's win over Dakers, that he fought him Dakers and that was for the English title. Maybe he's just done enough, but I mean, Frank Warren's got it, so Tshikeva's taken the opportunity here. In terms of a couple of quotes, so Joyce says, it's a great fight, entertainment, and I expect a great performance. It's good to share the ring with Hrgovic again. We had a good scrap last time about 12 years ago. The same result is going to happen. I'm going to win and then get elevated back up to the top of the sport. I'm really excited to be here again. There's a lot of excitement here and it's going to be a great night of boxing. I know exactly what to expect from him, and I've worked hard with Abel Sanchez before. He's got a lot of mileage and has been in the sport a long time and had a lot of hard fights. I look forward to knocking him out on Saturday night. Hrgovic says, are we still the main event after this? It was short notice, a few weeks, but I was already in good shape. That's why I accepted this fight, and I think this is a good opportunity for me. This win, hopefully on Saturday, brings me back to the top, and it's good to be part of this. And he says of Joyce, man, he's 40 years old. If he's 39, then he is young. I didn't know that. Look, he is definitely not in the peak of his career. Fighters get older, and that is the reality. I'm 7 years younger. I think it will play a role in this fight. And potentially, but Hrgovic, along with some other heavyweights, has shown sometimes that he can fade in fights. He can have a good 6 or 7 rounds, and then sort of the tank goes to E. One of the things, even though Joyce has been a bit more, not chinny, but he's felt the punches more and not been able to walk through them. He's always had a very good engine, throws a lot of punches. And I guess, will that pressure, if he can start to bring juggernaut mode into any sort of action, or if it's even half as effective as it used to be, that will put some pressure on Hrgovic. But I think Hrgovic, younger, fresher man, he does have decent power. But let's hope that he can actually use the jab and set up his shots rather than just trying to land a big right hand and act as a counterpuncher, which he said for that fight with Dubois, that he stood off too much. He allowed Dubois to come on, and he should have done more than just looking for counter rights. And that's true. So I think Hrgovic will take this, and I think this has the potential to be pretty brutal at times. So, like I say, Jeamie Tshikeva and David Adeleye, that is for the British title. Delicious Orie is on the card as well in his first fight under Frank Warren. Moving on, so you've also got a card in America, Richard Torres and Guido Vianello. You had Vianello coming off a career-best win over Arslanbek Makhmudov, and prior to that, he also had a very good fight with Ihor Shevadzutskiy. Richard Torres has really fought no one of the caliber of Vianello in his career to date. He's unbeaten, he's full of confidence, the silver medalist from Tokyo 2021. Top Rank has been building him, and they want to turn him into a star, and this really is a couple of steps up in terms of opposition, and it's a pivotal moment for Torres in his career, but so too for Vianello, because after a few fits and starts earlier in his career, the last year or two, he really has come on leaps and bounds. You know, sometimes in earlier fights in his career, he just looked a little bit disjointed, and there were flashes of what he could do, and he was pushed a while from Top Rank, by Top Rank for a while, but he just sort of seemed to go off, maybe it was around the pandemic, just sort of go off the boil a little bit. But that Makhmudov performance, also the performance against Ihor Shevadzutskiy, really pushed him close. Very good performance. And in terms of the weights here, you have Richard Torres, 229 pounds, Guido Vianello, 242 pounds. And that is a good weight for Guido. I think this is also a case, and we're looking at the tail of the tape here, you know, you have to remember, Guido Vianello does have very good footwork. He's the taller boxer, the longer boxer. He's got, 4 inches in height and 3 inches in reach, and he can move well. And if he opts to box and move, along with sometimes standing and trading, he could potentially be the ring general in there and control elements of the fight. I think one of the things that a lot of us have been saying for some time, that Torres does have a tendency to sort of burrow in, and he looks like a candidate to get caught with an uppercut or get caught with a short shot while coming in, and that could be something that does hurt him in his career, and potentially he ends up on the wrong end of things because of it. But Torres, obviously, very good skills, very quick too, and some of the performances he's put in of late, particularly against that Mexican guy, was it Isaac Munoz, who actually Jermaine Franklin fought. Franklin battered him but couldn't stop him. You had Torres all over him like white on rice and absolutely brutalizing him. So he's got good pop, a good range of shots. He has been developing, but is this too much too soon? And that's the question. And Guido, with a good game plan, they always say a good big man should beat a good bigger man who's smaller. So, if Guido is seemingly coming into the best of his career, into his prime right now, this could be a sort of coming-of-age moment for his career. Certainly the Makhmudov fight, people will say, well, Makhmudov was a guy that was clearly on the way down after some recent performances, but he did what he had to do against him. And if he can manage to stop Richard Torres, or beat him just in general, it's a huge statement for him and puts him really firmly on the map. I think, as a true contender. At the moment, I think he's a fringe contender. Richard Torres, he's still making his way, taking steps. He wants to lose that prospect tag, and I think if he beats Vianello and looks good in the process, even just a win here, fantastic for his career. But it does look like it's a couple of rungs up the ladder, higher in terms of opposition than he has faced in recent times. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. And this one here, yeah, it's hard to call. I am, I've sort of ummed and ahed about this. I am leaning towards Richard Torres, but I'm not going to be shocked if Guido pulls it off. So I'll call it for Torres, but if Vianello wins this one, I'm not going to be shocked at all. Could be one of these things where Torres, who does put in a lot of road work, he is very fit. I think he comes on potentially stronger in the latter half of the fight. There have been occasions previously where Vianello has sort of faded a little bit later in fights, so we'll see what happens here. Hopefully he's been doing his road work. Torres says it's something surreal to see your face on the side of a hotel and stuff like that, and I'm just excited to show everyone at home and the people following us who I am as a fighter. I feel like sometimes people think that I only know how to come forward, so I'm really excited to show some different facets to my game. Well, I don't think he's got the luxury to sort of box from the outside and be cute with it, because we'll have Vianello managing the range comfortably as the longer, taller guy. But in terms of his comments on Guido brings a lot to the table. He's a really tall guy. He knows how to use his length. I'm really excited to show my boxing abilities, to show that I'm supposed to be here. The most exciting part of this is he is a worthy opponent. He has a name. We're both working towards something. We're not just trying to stay in the game. We're trying to prove something in order to obtain something great. So it's amazing to me that we're able to be in the ring together to fight for that greatness. So Win would solidify that I'm supposed to be here, and that the trajectory that Top Rank has set me on is the right one. It solidifies that I've been working hard and that the work has not been in vain. Vianello says the fight with Makhmudov was just a warm-up for me. It was an easy fight. Now my pro career is getting started. Richard's a very strong guy. He's young like me. Actually, he's younger. We're two young guys. He's a southpaw. He's an Olympic medal, so big respect to him. I sparred with 2 Olympians in Italy. I sparred with 2 professionals in England. I sparred with another guy in Las Vegas. That was my hardest training camp ever. Okay, maybe something got lost in translation there, because those were terrible quotes to use. Anyway, moving on to Bakhodir Jalolov. So he is returning on the Hanala card in Kazakhstan. So he is facing Ihor Shevadzutskiy, who you might recall faced Martin Bakhodir. Bakhodir stopped him in a few rounds, just battered him. But the thing is, Bakhodir, we know, has heavy hands. Shevadzutskiy, much smaller. He was easy to find. And I think similarly, Jalalov will be able to find Shevadzutskiy. He will land his shots. He will land the backhand. And potentially, I think he will also stop him. But I think it's going to take a few more rounds than Bakhodir. So listed here as 25 pounds. I think that's meant to be 251.5 pounds. Shevadzutskiy's weight was not recorded. So at the time of recording, I couldn't really sort of find any photos of it. But Jalalov heading into this one, 14-0. This will be his first fight since his Olympic triumph, where he picked up his second consecutive gold medal. He was meant to fight in Canada earlier in the year, but he had to be pulled from that card because of illness. Wasn't really disclosed what had gone on there, but 6'7", 81-inch reach, 30 years old, 14-0. He's done a couple of stints in the pros, dropped back down to the amateurs, taken gold in both Tokyo and then Paris, and it's really time for him to hit the go button. He is also quoted as saying, after a long journey, I'm now ready to get to a world title. I want to get to it as soon as possible. I'm nearly 100% ready to fight for a world title. I'm ready to fight the great fighters in the heavyweight division. Usyk, Joshua, I'm ready to fight these fighters. To be honest, I mean, he's got a lot more work to do before he can get in the conversation, but he does potentially have the skills to get there, but they're going to have to start matching him a little bit tougher. I mean, it's been too long since he was last in a pro ring, and they need to hit the go button, like I say. So he says, all the fighters are the same for me. I have a strong punch, yes, but I've not fought any top 10 fighters yet, so I've been able to relax while fighting. This weekend, I'll fight again, and then we'll see what happens with my career. When I enter the boxing ring, knocking out opponents isn't important to me to entertain fans because I'll have some difficult fights to come. I won't be able to knock out every fighter out. Allah knows best for me. I'll have 3 or 4 fights this year, 2025. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we will see what happens with Jalalov. Some of these sort of guys from that region of the world, unfortunately, they haven't been able to get the same promotional push that other guys from bigger markets have. So can they really make something of Jalalov's career? Couldn't for Ivan Daichko and a few others. Hopefully, with this double success that he has pushed, he is signed with Top Rank. We'll have to see what they can do. Shevadzutskiy, yeah, he's solid enough, but Jalalov should beat him. And the Ring magazine notes that 4 Olympic heavyweight medalists take to the ring this Saturday: Joyce, Hrgovic, Torres, and Jalalov. But actually what they could have done, and I was thinking about this because Jalalov was at the 2016 Olympics, and I'm pretty sure Guido Vianello was as well, along with Joyce and Hrgovic. So, yeah. Anyway, some really good fights. It kind of has felt like a bit of feast or famine. Not too much to write home about recently in terms of the action since the last couple of big cards, but this is a good weekend for heavyweight boxing. Drop a comment loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.